everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Alastuey, and on this channel you will find a variety of inspirational and informational videos. So if that sounds good to you and you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. Today it is my honor to introduce my guest, who is Phil Jamaican Tank Clahar. He is an extraordinary IFBB Open Bodybuilder with a career that stands out in the world of professional bodybuilding. He achieved his pro card at the age of 43. He made his debut on the Myster Olympia stage at age 49 and continued to compete in the open division at age 50. His competitive edge and impressive journey are complemented by a diverse background in boxing, wrestling, and karate. Welcome to the show, Phil.
Hi, Lisa. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for coming on my show. You have had a few interesting couple of weeks.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yes, yes. And so I understand if you're like tired of talking about this, but I had a few questions just for clarity as an amateur that's kind of taken in this storyline with you that's played out online over the last couple of weeks, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so just for the audience that may not know, Phil had competed in the Chicago Pro and had maybe undesirable results, and he ended shortly after that retiring at the beginning of this month, August 2024. And there was some podcasts, so forth, that you went on and you kind of voiced your opinion about what happened. And then it was picked up by other bodybuilder community people like Sean Ray and Bob Ciccarillo, and it created this whole like controversy online. And a lot of times people were getting like one side here, one side there. What really happened? Are they hearing each other? What is this? And so it was kind of confusing as people were trying to follow the story. So let me just hear from your take, kind of what happened on that day and with the judging.
Okay. Well, first I want to definitely make it clear. Chicago Pro, yes, we did that. That was I think that was in like July, late July. And then I had the Tampa Pro the first weekend of August. So, just to get clarity, I spoke to Steve Weinberger. Everything is crushed where the uncomfort of placement and stuff like that, that's all got taken care of yesterday. But for the Chicago Pro, yeah, I mean, I showed up at the Chicago Pro, I know the best I could possibly show up, and I believe I was better than last year. And, the placement didn't go as expected, but then again, 2 years ago, same show, I placed 11th, you know what I mean? So Chicago just don't like me. That's just how we summed it up, me and my wife. But it is what it is. But I just thought that doing Tampa, I think it was about 2 weeks later. My hometown, things would be a little different because in Tampa I always do well. I've never not done well, even as when I was doing my pro debut, I always done well in Tampa. And it didn't go that way this year. I wasn't as crisp and as good as Chicago. But due to someone telling me I need to come in fuller, we got away from a little bit of conditioning and came in much more fuller. That game plan did not work. My placement for there was hard to bite. That was third call outs. I was retiring this year anyway. So when that happened, it left a little. It's not really a bitter taste. It was very hurtful, I guess, because if you follow my career last year. I won my first pro show at 49 years old. I went on to the Romania Myster Olympia, and I placed third there. So I had a very successful year, and then went into the Olympia. And of course, I took 15th. Well, it's my first Olympia. So I wasn't really expecting to do anything great there. It was just the experience I was looking forward to. So, going to the following year, I thought that, as long as I bring my best, it's going to be my last year. Let me go out on top, and it didn't happen that way. But certain podcasts, want to pick and choose their words and come after me a certain way. I don't want to continue to drag it on, but, I made my last reply back to those two individuals, and it's just case closed. You know what I mean? It's like, I'm not going to beat a dead horse. You know what I mean? I'm very happy in my retirement. I got a, beautiful wife. She's very supportive. If you followed my fans, I mean, I even gained some fans through all of this. So at the end of the day, everybody has the right to speak their truth. I was speaking my truth and how I felt at that time. And just because I may have called, somebody's name out, Bob and Sean decided to make their whole rant about me in a negative way. But at the end of the day, it really backfired on them. It really didn't work out for their benefit, because everybody know in this industry, or not in this industry, and know me in general, knows that me and my wife were very loving, caring. We're Christians. I don't, you know what I mean. So people were just jumping in that's just know me from not just bodybuilding, but seeing how I've walked the life as a bodybuilder from day one straight through. So nothing anybody can say negative about me where other people truly know the real truth. So at the end of the day, listen, we all like to do the things we love and try to give our best in everything that we do. I think I accomplished that at the age of where I was at. And sometimes I believe that individuals should be supported. They're older. They may have not was able to accomplish what I did, but you need to show support instead of disrespect. So I think it's all cleared up now. But if everybody followed from, I did a couple of these. I mean, I did a podcast with John, I did a podcast with Ron, and then I did the podcast with Muscle Discord. So it's funny that they picked Muscle Discord, which is Matthew, to pick on him and me when I already did 2 other podcasts prior to that. You know what I mean? So it made no sense. It made no sense.
I wonder if it has to do with like the business of bodybuilding. They went with the larger channel. There's more numbers, more views. And then when you start that online controversy, where you stir up stuff and you stir up polarity and emotionality, that stuff brings in views. Unfortunately, people love the drama. And like you said, you benefited because it brought you more people to your page and you now have more followers. And so, I mean, there's like the silver lining too to some of this, but I think some of it is just to kind of like stir it up.
Yeah, you're right. But if you're going to stir something up, here's my point of view. Make sure that your character is up to par. See, the problem is, Bob, and Sean Ray, he don't even have. He wanted to pick on Matthew, his channel, but Matthew has way more followers than he does. You know what I'm saying? He's like a little small little channel, and it's kind of funny. It's really the opposite way around. I don't think Bob has a really big channel. He just tries to speak on the brand of the IFBB Pro League because he's the voice of bodybuilding. So he does the introductions. That's all he really does in the sport. But you got to make sure your character. When you're going to make a video to chop athlete down so many people love, you know what I mean, and nobody cares for you or Sean, it kind of backfired because he's been known for being very negative. I'm trying to use the right words without being too disrespectful. So him and Sean are both that way, and they tend to speak. Their mouths are running faster than what the brain is processing. So I don't think they're clearly understanding what they're saying. But I always say, listen, make sure your dirt is clean before you try to go after somebody else in a negative way.
Yep. I get that, check your side of the street for sure. It is interesting though. I think with Bob, I think people are wondering about the athlete's rep, which he is, and you're an athlete, a professional athlete. And what has been your experience with what the athlete rep does for professional bodybuilders?
Okay. If you would take a vote of Bob being the athlete's rep, the vote will be extremely high that he is not. I think Bob took on that name on his own. I don't think that was really given to Bob. I hate to say that because an athlete's rep is strictly for the athlete, and normally an athlete's rep is not liked by the federation because he's for the athlete. So that goes against the federation. Like, he's at our wants and our needs. And normally, same thing. If you look at the NFL, you see the owners really liking the agents when they're fighting for money for their athlete, right? So athletes reps are not liked, and they don't stick up for the corporation. They only stick up for the athletes. If you watch Bob's video, he's speaking, well, let me clear it up. He claims that he's speaking on behalf of the IFBB Pro League. But we don't know that as fact, because like I stated in my final video, if that was the case, this is pretty embarrassing for the IFBB. So I don't think that is the case. But he's not a rep for the athletes. He has done nothing for no athletes.
You know, I tried to do a Google search, didn't find a lot on that position. I went to the Myster Olympia website, tried to pull up athletes rep, couldn't find anything written on it. I don't even know what type of communication is sent to the athletes on how the protocol goes if you need representation. Do you?
No, there's no athletes rep. There's none. And if you're going to have it, you can't really have one person. I mean, somebody made a really positive statement. We have different divisions.
Yeah.
Classic, bodybuilding, physique, bikini.
All the women's, yeah.
So you're going to have a rep for each division, right? So I just believe Bob just gave himself that title, honestly, because I have not seen, since I've been I went pro in 2017. And even prior to that, because I've always followed bodybuilding even before I became a pro, there's nothing there. There's nothing there. And honestly, he proved it. I mean, if you're a rep for the athletes, you think you're going to disrespect and try to destroy or discredit another athlete? How's that making you a rep? So I think he really proved to everybody around the world that saw his video that he's not a representative of the athletes.
Okay, so my understanding, it's an unpaid position. Is that correct?
Not if you, well, he would, let me say, if he would be paid, I think it'd be more the athletes all chipping in to make sure he gets paid because he's representing the athlete. I don't think, and that's the problem. Like, you can't be part of the IFBB and you're saying that you're an athlete's rep. They're totally separate. They're not together, right? So I think this is what I would believe. If he was an athlete's rep and they had a few of them, obviously, there will be some type of yearly payment. I don't know how that will operate to make sure he gets paid for his job. But I don't think the IFBB, because we're all independent contractors. So the IFBB is technically not responsible for none of the bodybuilders. We have to sign off on our contract that they are not reliable for anything that happens with us when we're on stage or, prepping for the show, for that competition. So at the end of the day, we're all independent contractors. So no, he doesn't get paid at all. That's why I don't know how come he's given himself that title.
Right. And he's not elected by the athletes.
No. Okay.
So maybe that's something that has to be looked at, maybe more transparency on what that position is, how it's, who does he report to, and what is the protocol for reporting, and where is the files and the documentation of that position in as far as transparency of how things are handled.
Well, listen, you said you nailed it on the head. There's a lot of things now in this time we could just jump on Google and search. If you don't find anything, there you go. It's very self-explanatory. Even if he had a track record in the past of being that, it would state that. But I mean, I fought about bodybuilding all the way from Lee Haney and Frank Zane and all those guys. I've never even seen an athlete rep from back then. I mean, I haven't. So at the end of the day, it will be great in the future. If that was to be done, because there's a lot of athletes as well too. We have mental illness. We still deal with a lot of things on the mental side, prepping for shows, that a lot of people don't understand behind the scenes that we deal with. And I don't think there's things in place for that, because being a bodybuilder, you could have other things you're doing. It could be painkillers, it could be drugs outside of whatever you're doing with drugs. You just need sometimes people in a certain place to try to keep us grounded. Right now, we're looking after each other. Like our group, we have a group of bodybuilders that, and we always say it on John's channel, if anybody needs, if you're down and out and you're thinking negative, anybody can reach out to me on Instagram. You know what I mean? I've had people reach out to me with issues on Instagram, and I talk to them. I always make time to answer everybody. And if you're going through something, I'm going to call you and say, hey, bro, you have a number. Let me give you a call and talk to you. But we need that within the IFBB Pro League as well. You know what I'm saying? It's not just about, coming up with extra money for first place to get more money. You know, we need to look at the mental aspect of it all around with the athletes, just, you know, and also keeping them healthy. You know, that's the
Mhm.
next thing, you know, make sure that, you know, as a pro league, you know, you make sure athletes don't compete in too many shows. But once again, we're independent contractors. They can't really tell us how many shows to do. But if you look at the state of professional bodybuilding, not that I believe that gear is what's killing some of these people as they go on or as they get older, but you know, sometimes it's just good. And that's why I thought so many people like, you know, they really should be pushing you, Phil, as a, you know, as a bodybuilder up in age and still staying with the elite of the elites. You
Mhm.
push that this can be done healthy and still be successful at an older, you know, but they didn't push that. And to me, that's more important to push health. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? And I was all about that, and I preached about it a lot on a lot of podcasts about the unhealthy part of bodybuilding. And then there's ways to try to be healthy, even insurance. Make sure every bodybuilder has insurance. Make sure every year their blood work is being sent into the IFBB. These are things that they could do as us being independent contractors to make sure we're healthy and safe on the
Mhm.
other end, you know?
Yeah, and along with the mental health part, there's screenings you can do with the mental health to, you know, check and make sure that, you know, they're prepared for the show and the after show and the come down. Yeah, there's definitely improvements that can be made. I have no doubt about that. I saw an interview with Bob about the athletes rep that he did with Ron Harris. And one thing he did try to get at one time was health insurance. But clearly that fell through because I don't know what exactly happened, but I think he did try to get that at one time because that is such a big issue and, you know,
Yeah.
can bankrupt a lot of people, you know, having catastrophic health issues.
Well, there's a lot of things Bob claims he tried to do, but unless I see proof and paperwork, and sometimes listen, if you're going to be on a podcast, you're going to say, hey, you know, I tried to get health insurance, and I think that the person that's hosting that show should say, hey, so do you have any documentation? I mean, how did you feel that you went about it to get that health insurance for the athletes, and you know, what was the kickback for it not to happen? You know, as an analyst, oh, you could come on to really get the real deal if you want to, not just take his word for it. Push a little bit to see if that information is accurate. You know.
Yep, yep. So, you know, the prize money for the Myster Olympia is 400,000 for the
Yeah, 450.
Open, or 450, excuse me. Arnold Classic just announced he would do 500,000.
Yeah.
And so would you rather see the money spaced out more evenly amongst like the top 10 versus
Yeah.
somebody getting a big chunk?
You just nailed it. I don't remember the young lady's name. She's the physique Miss Olympia, the Texas Pro. She was there and she um, donated money to that division and the top 10. And I really believe that's the way it's supposed to be. We're professional athletes, right? The top 10. So everybody got 1,000 until they got up to, I think, to the top 3 or 4.
Mhm.
Everybody else got $1,000, right? And I really truly believe from the bottom of my heart that if the athletes are who is keeping the IFBB Pro League in business. They've
Right.
said it. Numerous people have said it, right? So
Mhm.
why not take care of the athletes? There's a lot of money to go around where the top 10 can get something. Even the Olympia, you know, not, you know, the top 12 or something. This is the biggest show. There's big money being made. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Show athletes that, you know, we appreciate you, you know, as a pro and doing what you're doing, because a lot of these pro bodybuilders are doing a lot of things outside of bodybuilding. I was, you know, there's a college here at USF. I got a phone call. They have a bodybuilding team, which I think is so awesome. And they called me and asked me, can I come there? And I just started prep. I think I was like 3 weeks in prep. And I said, absolutely. You know, I would love to go help these young men and these young girls. And I stood there for, I would think I was there for about an hour and a half. And even after it was over, I'm sitting there still talking to these young women and young men, you know, investing. I did posing clinics, you know, so I invest a lot of time in the sport because it's what I love to do. They had a high school bodybuilding competition a couple years ago, same thing. I
Mhm.
stayed after and I really, really home in on, you know, every single person there because they all matter to me because everything I'm going to preach is safety and health first.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And if you're going to look at bodybuilding as a career, I really speak to these young kids and say, listen, I would think twice about making it a career. If you're going to do it as fun, go for it. You know what I mean? Because if you're not going to place in the top 6 in any of the regional shows as a pro bodybuilder, you're not making any money. Because not even the top 6 make money. It's only the top 5. You know what I'm saying? So that's the stressful part of it. A lot of these young kids and women, they see the good parts, but they don't really know the bad of the sport. You know what I mean? So it's not an investment to throw everything you have away and try to be a professional bodybuilder. No. I have a young man, he's been with me for a very, very long time. I think Matt's been with me since he's like 19 years old. And I've been coaching him ever since. And I always preach to him his job is more important. He has a good position in Publix, and he just competed. And he's going to take another year and a half off to focus on his next promotion. And that's what I like to hear. Don't let bodybuilding be your last show to focus on.
Yes, yes. Okay, so I have a question for you. When do you think is the right time for a professional bodybuilder to retire?
You know, that's a tough question, because if you look at now, football and a lot of these sports are all going, you know, longer. I think that science is different right now. There's so many things different than before. Everybody will retire in the late 20s or probably early 30s, around that 35, 34 years old. And it was like that in bodybuilding. But Dexter Jackson, I'm going to mention him because he's the greatest. Dexter retired at 50. I think 50 is a good age, honestly. I think 50 is a perfect age because of what it requires for us to take to continue to be on elite level. I think 50 is a perfect age to just call it quits. But Dexter, the most wins in the IFBB. So I don't want to say there's a age. Listen to your body. Get your blood work done, twice out of the year. And I think that if you can stay healthy and your blood work is good and you physically feel good, you go as long as your body can take it. I could have continued to go, you know what I mean? But I have a family, and, my wife has been with me since, we got married in 2008. So our 16th year anniversary was yesterday. And, bodybuilding is a selfish sport, you know what I mean? So like when I start getting ready for a show, I shut everybody out. And I'm even, I have to apologize to my mom because I'm tough on her because she'll call me and I don't want to talk. But that's the mind frame we have to be the best. It's like we shut people out in our lives that loves us because we're focused on that. And I think that they sacrificed enough with all the shows I've done to the point where now I need to sacrifice for them. And that's how come I made my decision to retire.
Yes, yes, definitely. If you want to be at the elite level, which you were, like top, 1%, there is that, self-focus that has to take place in order to be at the elite level.
Absolutely.
In the video with Bob and Sean, they talked about the 5 stages of grief, about, coming to a place of acceptance as for bodybuilders. What are your thoughts on that?
I think they're talking about themselves, honestly. My personal opinion. Sean was a very successful bodybuilder in his time. And when I made my video yesterday, I also said if he was competing in this time of year, he will be stomped on because he would not be successful as I was, because genetically, I'm just built different. Bob, poor Bob. Same thing with Bob, you know what I mean? So I came to conclusion that if these two gentlemen was happy with their self, as in everything they accomplished, and then look at a gentleman like me, the impact I'm taking on a sport at the age that I'm at, you are supportive for that because we're all in the same age range, right? So you're supportive of that. Now, if there's some type of, I want to use the word jealousy to the point where, man, I wish I was able to do that. It becomes a little bit of hate. So when they want to say these stages of grief, they're speaking about themselves probably when they didn't want to tell people to retire. Because a lot of bodybuilders don't say they're retired. You just don't hear from them anymore, right? But I have fans, and honestly, to be honest with you, I never physically said word for word I retired. I just posted a video from my beginning of my career towards the end. Everybody assumed I retired. You know what I'm saying? So I physically didn't use the word because they were also coming at me about, why you're telling people you retired, basically like, who cares? But I physically never said that. It was a video that was made like a collage showing you that, everything I went through, my accomplishments, my success, my downfalls, all that good stuff. And that's all I post. Now, everybody assumed that that was the case, even though it was, but I physically never said it. You get what I'm saying? So my thing with them is, there's no 5 stages of grief. They're full of crap. There's no 5 stages. Listen, when you make up your mind to retire, I had my mind already made up, regardless of how my career would have went. I just believed in my heart. I've never saw a pro bodybuilder come from a successful year, come into the next year and get slammed in the bottom. I've never seen that in the history of bodybuilding, ever. Because once you earn that spot, at least they could put you in the mix. You don't got to stay there, but say, hey, you know what? We're going to put him up there. He had a successful year last year. Let's see him battle in the top 8, the top 10. It doesn't work out. Then we could shift him out. I would have been happy with that. But what happened at Chicago, I was in second, call outs, fine. And I was in the middle, and they automatically pushed me to the end. You know what I'm saying? No posing, no nothing, automatically pushed me to the end. At the end, there's, obviously anybody knows bodybuilding, the judges are not looking at you at the end. They're only looking at the 3, middle, right, and left in the second call out, right? So that was that. I go to Tampa, I'm not even in the top 2. And regardless, even if I'm off, you know what I mean? You look at the third call outs and you just look at the picture in the third call outs. I didn't belong in it. But it's okay. Like I said, I spoke to Steve. I took his points. I respect it because out of anybody in bodybuilding, I respect Steve Weinberger. And that's why once I spoke to him, it was no need for me to go on Bob's channel now and talk to him because Bob and Sean is irrelevant when it comes to Steve Weinberger. Let me know. Well, basically, he spoke to my wife, and then she broke it down to me because, they're both from New York. So they sat on the phone for about 40 minutes and say that. So the 5 stages of grief, I think they're speaking about their own personal situation.
So Steve, he basically said that you could still compete in the Open even at 50, or you could switch over to the Masters again and do that as well. That's 40 and up.
Right.
And so
because don't mean to cut you off. What my wife was stating to Steve was, basically, we wanted to make sure if I decided to do the Masters next year, that I wasn't going to get some pushback because of, me speaking my truth. That was the main thing, because I'm not going to travel that far. And, it's a lot of money. You know what I'm saying? So, and then, she just asked questions about the other show. And, Steve gave his breakdown, and then Steve said, listen, this is how he said it. If he wants to do Masters, he can do it. But Phil is still a great bodybuilder to compete in the Open. So basically, you don't have to do Masters. You still got what it takes to battle the best of the best in the world. He said, I'm a great bodybuilder. For him to say that, because Steve is very blunt, he's going to say, listen, it's time. And I would respect that. If he said, listen, it's time, I'm good. I'm done. Because he's the head judge. You know what I mean? And I respect him. He's actually, Steve is who encouraged me to get to the level that I'm at now. Because when I competed in the very beginning, working my way up the ranks, Steve wasn't no joke. I mean, he was on me, and I couldn't even get anything. You know what I mean? No good placements, whatever. And I spoke to him, and he just told me what I needed to do to move up in the pro league, and I did that. So honestly, he's part of my success moving up to where I'm at. I don't think he knows that, but he really is. And a lot of other judges, Tim Garner, a lot of other good judges and promoters that's been a part of my life to help me towards my success. So for him to tell me that, it made me really sit back, and I felt good. So it made my retirement the pressure was off my chest because I think I was more hurt. I wasn't bitter. These sour grapes and the words they were using, that wasn't it. When you put your blood, sweat, and tears, and then you see from the past what happens, and you see what happens to you, and it just feels like you're being thrown away after your success. That's the part that got me. It wasn't bitter. It was like I really love this sport, and I just felt the way I felt, and it wasn't good. But like I said, once I spoke to Steve, the pressure was just released off my chest to where I felt good now about everything.
Okay. You felt like you got validated by him? Yes. Did he have anything to say about the shenanigans of the online world and the comments and all of that back and forth?
We don't get, Steve, I'm gonna tell you something right now. Steve and a lot of the people in the IFBB do not get caught up in it. It's not good for business, but Steve is not the one. He's that straight New Yorker. He has the accent. He's all about business. You see Steve Weinberger, that's a serious, he's a tall, big guy, and his focus is business. So no, he would never get wrapped up in this.
Okay, so he didn't have any comment on that, even though I'm sure he's aware of that stuff
No, he's
happening.
aware. The only thing I could say that he said was, I should have just called him.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's all he said. And I mean, me being hurt at the time, my wife was telling me to call him, but because I was so hurt, I didn't want to call him. I didn't think it was going to make any difference. And that's the stubborn part of me. Every man has that stubborn side.
Mhm.
And I wish I should have called him before things got a little bit out of hand, which I don't think it did, because I think the podcast I made, I was very respectful. I just spoke what was on my heart. You know what I mean? I don't think Stephen, because this happened right after. I don't think Steve even know about the Bob. I mean, pretty sure he knows now. But the only thing he wanted to know was when I made the podcast with
Matt.
Matthew.
Mhm.
That's the one that got it, which I don't understand, because I said, Matt, I said the same freaking thing on Ron's channel, and he got no heat for it. You know what I mean?
Right.
So probably they didn't see it. But no, he just said, you should have just called me. I wish you would have just called me. That's all he said.
Yep. Okay, cool. All right. So, speaking of like bodybuilding drama online, what are your thoughts on, coaches and athletes, airing their beefs? Like, for example, there's been one recently with Samson and Milos, and then everybody's, consuming that information. What do you think about this, like, online world in the bodybuilding and the business of bodybuilding that everybody gets
You know,
privy to?
here's my personal opinion. I mean, I love Milos, and I love Samson and his wife. I think they're remarkable people. I don't think it's the right thing to air anything out about your coaches. I never did it. You know what I mean? I may have had situations with previous coaches. I'm not going to get on there and say anything negative or dramatic about what you believe he tried to do, because at the end of the day, we're adults. We don't got to follow everything a coach tells us to do. I haven't with some of my coaches. You know what I mean? So we're grown men. We don't have to follow everything they say. But I don't think it's good for athlete and coaches to, well, I won't say coaches. I don't think Milos really said anything negative. Milos is just all positive, even till this day, that he's going to do well in the Olympia. So I don't think Milos came off negative. I don't know exactly what happened. Obviously, it's something serious happened because they were together for a while. But I think that athletes need to just not air things out like that, because remember, there's other athletes that's going to work with that individual, and what you say can hinder them wanting or choosing to work with that other coach. So I think that you guys, them two, need. I don't think they even talked about it. I don't think they squashed it. I don't think they had any verbal conversation. From what I heard, it was a text message or a letter to Milos that he no longer wants to work with him. But I mean, I had a situation like that in the past where I had to leave a coach. He was a good coach, and I sent him an email and a text. But I also said, if you want to talk, we can talk, because we could let bygones be bygones. We could still be friends. I don't think because you and a coach split, y'all shouldn't be cool, because that's business. Y'all build a personal relationship together, so that friendship should still be there somewhat. And that person never called me. And then I waited for, I want to say about 8 months or more, and I reached out to him again. I still have the person's number, and I texted him. I said, "Listen, if you have some time, and I would love for us to talk." He said, "I'm busy right now, but I'll give you a call." And I never got it. Now I can rest, because I made every effort to squash whatever hurt he may have had because I left to go to another coach. So at the end of the day, we need to just be really good people. And if we have some situations or something going on with your coach, talk about it, and then just say, "Hey, I'm going to go elsewhere," and that's it. There's no need to, like you just said, everybody loves drama, man. They're gonna jump in. They'll have the popcorn box ready. They'll go after it. So at the end of the day, that's what sells. But I believe that we don't need to air everything out on social media regarding our personal lives with our coaches.
Mhm. I think that's great advice. And I wonder what it's doing to the generation coming up, that are the teenagers and the 20-year-olds that are watching this, how adults are behaving and acting and communicating with each other. Like, and do they think it's all right? And we'll just keep continuing the drama and not correcting.
Yeah, no, it's 100% true. It's 100% true.
Yes. Okay. So another thing that I saw in the news recently, that was, people were coming down on some athletes for photoshopping and filtering their images. And some think that that is unethical, especially if you're trying to sell products and you're putting forward an image. Others said it's okay, everybody does it. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, Lee Priest is one of them. He said it's been being done since back in his day. I don't believe in it. I'm just one of those bodybuilders that don't even share pictures as I'm getting ready for a show. I mean, I know these guys do it for entertainment for their fans and so on, but do you ever see a boxer preparing for a fight and he's showing his game plan to his opponents? No. A football player, they don't show their game plan to the opponent. So why should I show what is coming that's not really coming? And then you step on stage and you look totally the opposite of everything you were posted prior to the show. That's why, like, when I speak to like certain podcasts and they say, oh man, such and such look like a killer, I said, bro, listen, that's what they look on here. I've seen a lot of pros step on stage and they look totally the opposite. So then they call them Instagram bodybuilders because they always look good on Instagram, right? So yeah, I don't think it's a good idea if you're trying to represent yourself and what you're about, what you're bringing to your fans at the show. I think just being honest and open, if you're going to do it right. I mean, listen, if you have flaws, but the problem with these pictures is this, and bodybuilders, when we're in deep in prep, our brain isn't wired well. And this really affects the younger athletes because now you're getting torn down on social media by podcasts. Oh, you don't have this, and oh, he's horrible. There's no way he's going to be ready. And that mentally messes with athletes. You know what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, remember, if you're going to show something and share your life with the world, be ready for the kickback.
You got the kickback.
Yes, but that's here's the thing, and somebody made a comment. I think it was Luke. It's like it's crazy. It's like we're running for president, and we got Democrats and Republicans. It's like it's too much politics going on in the sport of bodybuilding. When bodybuilding is supposed to be for the love of the sport. When Joe Weider was alive, when he brought Arnold over and, in the very beginning, that's all he was about: structure, beauty, flow, and so on and so forth. Now these guys are getting nothing wrong with it, but they're getting incredibly big, and some of them are walking around over 300 pounds. The body is not made or designed to walk around at that weight. Your heart's working more. Your blood pressure is going to go up. A lot of the pros now you see them with sleep apnea masks now. So is that healthy, when we're going that direction? Right. So at the end of the day, it's like, I don't know. I don't know. And that's what I preached about a lot, because everybody's like, is there something you said to why the judges did that? Did you say something? I said, I don't remember, but I want to speak my truth. If you don't we have the right for freedom of speech. And if I want to speak on how I felt, as people, we respect it. He has the right to speak. You know what I'm saying? Because if we don't have that right to speak, then what do we have? And the sad part of it is there's a lot of pro bodybuilders from all different divisions that feel a certain way, but they can't speak up because they get shafted. Lee Priest will tell you about it. He spoke up a lot, and his placements went straight down. You know what I mean? So if we're in a sport, football, if you look at all the other sports, all these athletes speak up, nothing happens to them. You know what I'm saying? So I think that in this great sport, which is the IFBB Pro League, because I believe in the future it's going to be better. I just have to believe that, or hope or pray for it does, that you just start having some compassion. I know it's a business and I respect that, but start to have some compassion for the athletes. If an athlete passes away, the upper people need to call those families and make sure they're okay. If you got to do a fundraiser or whatever the case may be, but don't let something happen and then it feels like the family feels like they're being disregarded. Their husband or son put everything they had in the sport and was up there at the top, and then something happens and it feels like he's like garbage. No one from the top is doing anything. So I truly believe in the future. I really, that hope. And, and that was a Joe Weider thing. He loved his athletes. I know it was harder back then, coming up with some of the bodybuilders, but he was just all about that. And I hope it gets back to that. I hope the athletes will just, if they step up and speak, like you said, even like getting in mental health or speak up, I think the Pro League will listen. But if nobody speaks up because they're reigning high and you're making money and they don't want to jeopardize that, then this is the place that it's going to stay.
Yep. Yep. No doubt. Very well said. Okay. So let me ask you, you touched on a little bit, the next generation. A lot of the pros on the open stage are, pushing 300 pounds. Do you see in the future that they'll keep pushing the limits, keep pushing the envelope, and we'll see 325 like in the top 6, 350, 375? Are we just going to keep pushing and pushing the limits?
My personal opinion, because I don't want anybody to get offended by what I say, which is the big dogs. Yes, it's going to keep pushing if it's allowed. If you're being judged and it's showing that it's okay to continue to push the limits, then you're going to continue to push the limits. So you got to remember, when you're a 21-year-old or 22 and 3 and you're still really young and you have all this success and you're doing well and you're making money, right? And now here comes somebody else. Ronnie Coleman was a proven fact. Like, everybody started to chase Ronnie. He was the biggest once he started, because he was a late bloomer. Once he started winning, now Jay Cutler, because I met Jay Cutler way before he was like a superstar, and his structure was beautiful. But now everybody's chasing Ronnie. Flex Wheeler, same thing. The size, because that's what they had to try to do to keep up. You know what I mean? To try to beat Ronnie. And it's something of what's going on right now. You know what I mean? And I said it in a lot of videos, and probably that's what they didn't like. I don't know. But my thing is, like, if you allow it to continue to happen within the criteria of judging, then it's going to continue happening to the point where it gets really out of hand. And then we start losing more people. I mean, I really hope that does not happen. But you got to remember, if you're young and you making money, you got sponsors out the wazoo, you're making money, you're selling your own supplements, and you're flying high until you're no longer flying high. Then you don't hear about them. So they don't have to pass. It could just be, once you're not bringing in that money, you go. You know what I'm saying? You're not really heard of anymore. And I just, I hope it changes. I really do, because there's some great bodybuilders, man. Let me tell you, you sit and you talk to them. These guys are down to earth, really, really good guys. I mean, they live regular lives like I do, and we get to talk. People don't know the behind the scenes of talking to these guys or going out to lunch with them after a show. And, even the bond I have on John's channels with Bo and Lukamon and everybody else, like, we're like a brotherhood. And I really think bodybuilding should be that way. They have to fight together, think together, and speak together to make things change.
And uplift each other. Yep.
Yes, 100%.
Yes, yes. Okay, so let's talk about Olympia predictions. So we're sitting at the end of August, and I want to hear from you what you think are the top 5. If you were going to place them today, who would you say are the top 5 in the winner?
Right now, I have to give the respect to Derek. Derek is the Myster Olympia. I think that it's going to be a hefty battle, though. I think that Hottie is going to make a strive to come back. But it's crazy because it's like, Andrew Jack freaking super improved, and, he's bigger and he looks better, and you put Andrew Jack, it's like he's unbeatable, right? If Andrew nails his conditioning, which everybody knows, and let's say Samson nails his conditioning, I think that could overtake the other two. But I see Derek, which I got, until he gets knocked down, I have to pick him for first. Hottie, Samson, Andrew, or vice versa. It could be either way. I think if Nick nails it, because he battled with Martin, Martin's very, very dangerous. And Martin pushed him in the New York Pro. And he won. I think Nick won by 1 point. I could be wrong, but I think that's what it was. Nick could be in that top 5, but it's so many new people coming. I don't know if Big Romney's doing it. Bonac at 40 something years old is impressive. So that's the top 5 I'm going to go with for right now. But anything could shake up. But I just believe the taller, bigger guy, if he brings in every part, he's going to win. So if Andrew or Samson brings it, but you have, Derek got bigger, he's thicker, he's round. I saw Derek because he brought me, I needed a supplement from his company, and he brought it to me to Tampa, which you don't understand. Derek, outside of Myster Olympia, is one of the honest, down to earth young man, because I'm older than him, Christian brother I've ever met. How you Myster Olympia, and you get a call from Phil Clahar that, you know, I need a carb powder from Evergen, right? And you show up to the show. Didn't say let's meet somewhere. You show up to the Tampa Pro to bring it to me yourself, right? Mo Shaban couldn't get on his airplane. I guess it was a delay, so he was stuck here. Mo reached out to Derek. Derek brings him food. You tell me, you know, who Myster Olympia, he's very busy, and he still look after the other athletes, right? So that's why I just got to, I hope he wins. I really do, because I know he really, really works hard and he pushes himself, but it's going to be interesting. That's going to be the top 5 that I'm looking at.
Okay, so when they're judged on structure, size, conditioning,
Symmetry, flow,
muscularity, aesthetics, I mean, the full package. I'm always impressed with, like, I mean, Derek and Hottie are short. They're like 5'5",
yeah.
5'6". And then you have Samson is he close to 6 foot, maybe?
Samson is taller than me. I'm 6 foot. I think Samson's 6'1" or
Okay.
6. Yeah, I think he's 6'1" or 6'2".
And you have Andrew Jack's like 6'2".
Yeah, I think he's a little bit taller than Samson. Yeah.
Yeah, and then when you see them on the stage, it's almost like a magic trick to me, because you have Hottie standing next to Samson, and you've probably felt this yourself, being so tall. You have the size, you have the structure. You're going against a guy who is like 5'5".
Yeah.
And then the backs look the same size and so forth.
It's that when it comes down to that now, it's conditioning. It's a very fine line. Hottie was not as razor as he was at these 2 Arnolds he did previous. If he was like he was at Arnold, Ohio, everybody said he would have beaten Derek at that Olympia if he looked like that. Yeah. I think he got the remedy now, because I think Hottie was chasing size, and he was getting ready from the conditioning, because the Myster Olympia is about size. So even though Derek and Andrew Jack is tall, you got to look at the shorter guys. They pack so much muscle and girth and thickness. So technically, they do pan size for size with a taller guy. But then when it comes down to the conditioning, the bigger guy will win if he is more conditioned than the other guy. But he also has to win the poses, because there's poses that's being judged. And, you know, Derek is not getting beat from the back, so they might as well hang that up. So now these guys got to come in conditioning and be prepared to beat Derek in the poses. And right now, the only person that's so flawless and a master at posing is Hottie. Hottie's a master.
So conditioning, like, they're all important, but conditioning is like a little bit more important, like the most important.
If you got these guys that fits all the criteria, right? And now it's a battle between poses by 1 point each guy. Now you have to fine tune and look for the finer things. The shredded glutes, the definition, the stridations going across the chest, you know, the midsection being tight through every pose and all that good stuff. So yes, it will come down to not just size, it's going to come down to who is there with all of the criteria.
Okay.
And then it comes down to the condition.
And so I know, like, a complaint with Samson is that sometimes he comes in full of water, like he's not, and so he doesn't look as conditioned on stage, when in fact he could be, but he's just retaining too much water.
You know, the Olympia, and once again, you know, it depends on, you know, one thing about Milos, I can say, Milos loves to come in more on the fuller side. He likes hashtag bodybuilding, so he don't believe having too much of one thing. I could be wrong. So Samson came more, he was conditioned, but not conditioned enough, but he was so round and bubbly, you know what I mean? Where he don't need no more muscle. He just needs to come in condition. Now, when he does all the regional shows, he comes in on point. You know, when his wife apparently was coaching him or doing the last minute prep for those shows. So I think he's going to bring it. I don't know how better conditioning he's going to bring, but I'm praying that he nails it, because this guy is a freaking hard worker and he's a really good guy. He's another guy that I sit down and talk to. And, you know, when I had my successful year last year and I was in the Olympia, I was nervous because my first time there. And I'm with all these big stars, Heidi, Derek, Leela Brada. I'm nervous because my wife is normally always in the room with me, and Olympia, they don't let them in. So I'm sitting here like just nervous, you know? And, you know, Samson comes over to me and he's like, man, congratulations. You did awesome, you know, these other shows. And that's what I'm talking about.
Mhm.
You know, the love and that's the type of person that he is. And you know, I was settled in a little bit, just being knowledge by Samson and also Andrew Jack and Leela Brada. But yeah, man, it's you know, it's going to be a good show. If he nails it, it's going to be very interesting. If him and Andrew nails it, it's going to be an interesting top four. Very, very interesting.
Yes, yes. So the real quick, the conditioning, you've got to see like the cuts. I know like on Hottie, we
Yes.
always condition because you can see like every line of his abs are etched in there, and that's
The
how you
striation
know.
across the chest, that's the key thing. Just being structured, the small waist. He's now hitting vacuums and he's making his waist look even smaller. That's what I'm saying. It's going to be, I don't think it's so much of a who's taller type thing. The taller guy just appears bigger, but
Right.
pound for pound, if you really look at it with the density and size,
Hmm.
smaller guys is pound for pound as big as the taller guy.
Hmm. Yeah, that's
Just
one.
structurally, the taller guy looks better.
Yeah, that's one thing I was amazed by because I never thought it before. Derek, just how long his clavicle is, and I was like,
Yeah.
oh, he has such a long clavicle. He can put on that mass on his 5'5" frame.
Yeah, he put some size on his legs too. So, like I said, it's he's he's
Amazing.
he's he's a little ahead of schedule. He's looking really really good right now, and I would be because he knows that everybody believes he's not going to win it again, and that's going to push him. But then again, you have Nick, where nobody's really mentioning him so much in the top five, top six.
He's a
And Nick is
sleeper.
a dangerous. He's dangerous. You piss Nick off, it's game on. So I
Yeah.
think this is the 60th anniversary of the Myster Olympia. I think it's going to be absolutely amazing.
Yes, yes. Well, with Nick, is it a disadvantage that he has like a longer torso, shorter legs, like proportionality?
Well, you got to understand, Nick is known as the mutant. He
Right,
doesn't have the prettiest physique, which he already knows that. He said that.
right,
So, but Nick would destroy you with the mass.
right.
Conditioning is not an issue for Nick. It's not. Now, he wasn't at his best conditioning in New York, but conditioning has never been an issue for Nick. Waistline control, which I think I heard Matt, his coach, saying that they're bringing people in to help with the controlled breathing and stuff like that, which is key. He controls everything. That waistline is tight, and he brings that razor conditioning. His side chest is dangerous. His double biceps dangerous. His lat spread's dangerous. You know, he may get beat in the front shots, but Nick is a sleeper. He's just a sleeper. So that's what I'm saying. Anything can happen within that top five with those names I called, and it's going to be very interesting.
Yeah, I can't wait. I was there last year, and I went to the Mr. Olympia last 2 years, and I was really amazed how they do the judging so late on Friday night. Like they're
Yeah,
still on stage at 10:30, and then they have to come back the next day and do it all over again. And I know that
that's
because
the tough part, Lisa. It's because I used to hear about it, but I actually physically went through it,
yeah.
and we actually started a little later because it's crazy. In Vegas, it's super late because they're on a different time zone. Then
Hmm.
when because they're alternating Vegas, Florida, from what I believe. And in Florida, it was late. A lot of these guys were peaking, and then honestly, I think everybody was somewhat off for that
Hmm.
prejudging. I think they were. They came back better for the night show the next day, but everybody was struggling, and it's crazy. My opinion, which I know it'll never happen because it was said it was not going to happen. A lot of people are saying get the open guys up there as soon as possible and get them off, you know,
Hmm.
because they're peaking, you know. But if they do that, they're claiming, well, nobody will be there for the bikini and the other divisions. But here's my thing: they already paid for the tickets. What does it matter?
Right.
You know what I
They just
mean?
want people in seats, though. They feel like they're going to
I
get them
know
walk
that,
out.
but it's taking an impact on the bigger guys. The bigger guys
Yeah.
just laying back there and trying to
And the
stay
best
ready.
show, the best show
Right,
you
that's what
could
everybody
give
comes
up.
to say. It's a mass monster. So you look at the 212, they get them in and get them out.
Hmm.
You know. So I don't know. I don't think that's ever going to change. It's been stated that it's not on certain person's watch. I'm not calling nobody's name. That it's not going to happen. But you know, like I said, this 60th, because it's the 60th, I think they got something special for the
Hmm.
people. And I'm going to be excited. I will be watching it. I'm not going, but I will be watching it and just cheering all my fellow bodybuilders on.
Yep, yep. And just, I know it's going to be so competitive, and what we saw what happened last year, and how, fans went nuts online, like death threats and so forth. It's just so crazy.
Yeah,
And some
they
of it, I'm
just
sure,
did
is
that again. Did you
bots.
hear what they did at Tampa to De La Rosa? He
Yeah,
won and he got the death threats, and his wife is so sweet. I don't know why they have to drag family in it. Listen, if you're going to shoot death threats, shoot them at me. And I think De La Rosa said the same. Send them at me, but don't send them at my wife. She has nothing to do with it. My thing is this: why send them at any of the athletes? We are not the ones judging the show. We have nothing to do. You know what I'm saying? We have nothing to do with sitting on basically sitting in underwears and posing oiled up. We have nothing to do with the call.
right.
So if you're going to throw death threats, throw them at the people that's calling the show. I don't know. You really shouldn't be throwing them at all. You know what I mean? But
Right.
it's always the people from the Middle East. God bless their soul. They do it, but they have such a passion for bodybuilding. That's all they have there. That's
Mm,
why they have such great athletes coming out there. They're hungry. It's just tough out there. So that's
mhm.
why the fans are so heavily passionate. But then again, the athletes need to say, hey, listen, guys, chill out. Thank you very much for your love, but this is not necessary, which Mo did do with the fans to calm them down. But Derek did get more of a blunt of it. And it's not necessary. It's just not
Yeah.
necessary.
Yeah. He ended up turning his comments off and so forth because it just got out of hand. But
Yeah.
what are your thoughts on sharing the same coach? Like, I know Derek and Hadi both share the same coach. Like, is that not a conflict of interest?
I have my own personal opinion about it. It is very hard. It is very hard because I try to put myself in that position. And I was in that position when I was with George Farrow because he had such other elite bodybuilders. But George is so freaking sweet. But me as a human, I'm like, I wonder if he's doing something more special with that guy than he's doing with me. Like things do run through your head. And I'm pretty sure, listen, we're all human. I'm pretty sure it runs through Derek's head. How do you, and he's a Persian wolf. I don't think he gives two craps. You know what I mean? But as a human, it does. But honestly, you know what? Hani is a great coach, and honestly, even working with Blue, I mean, he has Beef Stew and some other great bodybuilders, and we have the same coach. And me and Beef competed against each other before in the past. I think that the coach doesn't get involved. He'll give you the protocol you need for you, and a protocol is needed for the other person. The nutrition for you and the other person. It's up to you to implement that and work hard to build your physique and bring in your best. So yes, it is hard, but I believe it drives him. And I think that's driving Derek because he already knows Hadi is coming and he knows he's coming hot. So it motivates you to train harder to bring your best.
Most definitely. So let me ask you, because you definitely had started your career later than the average in the 40s, and you said that you haven't officially retired. You might be open to doing a master's in the future. Is that correct?
Well, right now it's up in the air, but it's more on the nay than yay. You know what I mean? Yeah,
Okay.
the reason being it's like I just have to. First of all, like I was talking to a good friend of mine that he might do it, and he texted me, and I was like, "Listen," because he wants to do it because he wants to go to Japan.
Oh, is
That
that
was
where the
his bucket
master's
list.
is?
Yes, and from what I hear, it's very beautiful over there. But at the end of the day, it comes down to finances. You know, what I mean, I've invested a lot of money in bodybuilding. I have not got the kickback close to getting paid back.
Right.
So it just comes down to reality right now. You know what I mean? Do I need it? No, I don't. Could my mind change? I mean, it's not till next year in August,
Mhm.
possibly.
Yeah.
But I probably will give. I will probably, if I do decide to do it, I probably, would definitely, make it known. But right now, it's more nay than yay. I did put it
Mhm.
out there; it could be a possibility, but it's always a possibility to do anything.
Mhm.
Um, so we'll see. What I mean, we'll see. It comes to a point in your life when you just know it's just time to walk away.
Mhm.
And even I don't know if I'm going to have that drive to come back. As soon as it's crazy. As soon as you say the word in your head that you're retired, right in your head, mentally it impacts my whole training now. It's like when I was competing. And when I go through my health phase of cleaning out and getting healthy and doing my blood work, I got that drive, that motivation for next year already. You know what I mean? Even though I'm getting healthy and pushing in the gym, but it's crazy how powerful the mind is. Because the minute you say, all right, buddy, it's over. I told my wife, I said, now I just feel so weak. She said, welcome to the real world.
Yeah, I mean, it's so true. You've trained your mind in a certain
Yeah,
routine for years on years. And so to turn that off is not so easy.
yeah. So we'll see. We'll see. If it's meant, if it's God will, it'll happen.
Mhm.
I always leave my faith in Him, and if it, like when I won the Orlando, my mindset was so different. Like my coach would be like, "Oh, we're gonna bring the best. We're gonna do our best." I said, "No, you're not understanding. We're gonna go win this show." Like I was so drilled in the fact that I was gonna win, and that's how powerful the mind works. And it happened. And I said, "This is the even before that, I said this is a year I'm going to the Olympia." Previous years, I prayed to go pro. It happened at a later time in life when I was a star in 2008. I won the Florida State in the overall, but then I had to compete internationally because I was a Jamaican resident. Now anybody can compete now to get their pro card now. But back then, I had to even spend tons of money to travel internationally. And doing that, you're going to run into their politics because, oh, you're only coming here because you can't get it over there. I know how they're thinking. So it was rough. And Grenada, and I forgot there was Grenada and another show. I just it wasn't happening, And then I did a show. I don't know which one it was. Patty's memory is better than mine. And chief, uh, the chief of the IFBB, because they used to be together. It was IFBB all together. Now it's IFBB Elite and IFBB Pro League. And he came up to me and he said, "Could I talk to you?" And I didn't know who he was. And this is why you always got to be respectful because I'm already upset I lost. And I said, "Sure, sure." He said, "I'm the head of the IFBB chair. And I just want to tell you, you lost. You look very good. But we passed a rule with extension of the midsection. I have really big, thick, blocky abs. So it looks like sometimes extended, but it really isn't. He said, are you doing anything to cause your midsection to grow? Weighted sit-ups? I said, no, no, no. He said, there's a big show in Canada. It's a really, really big show. It's an international show. And I would suggest you do it. I thought about it and I called Tim Gardner, and he made the phone call to get me in because it was international shows. I was representing the United States at the time, and I went there and I told my wife, I said, "Listen, I'm gonna do them both. I'm gonna do Masters and Open. If I get my pro card at Masters, I'm not pursuing my bodybuilding career. If I get in an Open, I'm gonna pursue. I'm 43 years old.
Mhm.
I won both Masters overall and a pro card, and both Open and overall, and got my pro card. So that's two pro cards and two overall wins in a show. And then I went on to compete. So that's what I'm saying. It's just God will. Everything just happened right when it's
Right.
supposed to happen. And I told my wife, I said, "Man," she said, "You know what? If you would have went pro, you came up here like 34, 32, 34, and you're flying so high. I was on front cover of magazines and everything for this location in Florida." I said, "Yeah, we probably wouldn't be together because I was so young and immature, and all that fame, it probably would." And that's what I'm saying. Like God made it, it just shut it down. And then 43 was just the time, crazy as it may be, and it worked out. And I asked to go pro. It happened. I asked to win a pro show. I used to always say it in my house. My wife's like, "So what you plan on doing this year? How do you think?" "I just want to win a pro show." That's all I kept saying over and
Mhm.
over and over.
Yep.
Um, and he gave me that, and I asked to be an Olympian. That happened. And honestly, I didn't even need to compete this year because that was my high
Mhm.
for that year, right?
Yep.
And I wanted to do one more show for my fans. And
Yeah.
that's what I said when I decided to come into this final year. I'm doing this for my fans, and then I can walk away knowing I completed, a successful year. So yes, I was a little hurt because the outcome, because I know I'm doing this for people I love, and some of them I don't even know. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? Another thing that was a damper to my heart that I never mentioned on any channel, I had 13 of my clients paid for front row tickets to the Tampa Pro. When that didn't happen, being third call, as I sat there and I said, "Wow." And I told myself right then and there, I said, "It's over." My wife, she read my lips. She said, "You said wow, didn't you?" I said, "Yeah." And I wanted to walk off stage, but I got way too much class. So I just sucked it up and finished. I walked off and I just, said I was done. The young lady was like, "You're going to come back for 10?" I said, "No, I'm done. I'm officially retired today." Um, I got back to the hotel room.
It's okay.
And I broke down. Now I have my closest friend, my athlete, Matt, there. So I see Matt, he's feeling so bad. Then another one of my athletes calling the phone. So Matt's in the bathroom talking to him. I said, Patty, you know what? It's not even about what happened. I have to call all these people that spent $100 and something that I'm not even in the finals. I think that was more hurtful to me than me taking third call outs. You know, so she, great woman, she texted all of them and they all said, let's go out to dinner. Let's just go 7:30, let's meet at Grill Smith. And they all showed up. I broke down there again. And they said, Phil, listen, we were coming for you. It's not about the money. You get what I'm saying? The love.
Yep.
Sometimes I don't take the time to consume the love of. I train these people every day, and just to know how much they care, that they spent this money, and they're saying, "Don't worry about that. We're here to have a good time." You know what I mean? Regardless of how they may have believed, you're a winner to us. It was amazing. It was amazing. So I was more hurt with the money that was invested that we could not get back, and then the failure that I believe I failed, my fans, my wife, and then my client. So I think that what was the most hurtful part. So other than that, like I said,
Have you had time to reflect and see that maybe they showed up for you and for the whole journey and not just one show?
yes, yeah, now we made a bond. So every so often, I think in 2 weeks we're all going out bowling, and laser tag in the same place. But sometimes I have to just understand that I am so loved. Even with all this craziness going on, and you look at the response from so many people around the world on my side, because how when you're trying to tear somebody down that's great and that's good-hearted, it would never work. People see through it. And then when I saw that, it was like, wow. And then the DMs I was getting. So I just got to understand I'm very loved. To hell with bodybuilding. There's a lot of people love me for who I am. They just enjoyed seeing me on stage and doing what I was doing at the age I was doing it.
Yes, yes, yes. And you're not built for the bodybuilding online drama. Like some
No.
people love to stir the pot and they're built for that and they know how to, I don't know, turn that into dollars and so forth. But that's clearly not you. And you're
No.
just, you're just being you. And I
If
think
you
that that's
look,
awesome.
that's what Bob wanted. At first we was like, you should have had us on the show. Instead of degrading me, you should have had us on the show. Then he waited and said, "Oh, that's a good idea." And then he reached out to me in my DM. This was after now. He reached out to my DM and he's like, "Let's do the show, you and your wife. You better be ready." That was the word he used. Now I said to my wife, "We're not doing it because he's looking for clicks. He wants us to continue going on. These shows are done. There's no need. We need to entertain." Because what's going to happen is it's going to backfire on me because the respect people have for me to continue to draw this out and make it into a war. Because what's going to happen is we're going to get on there. He's going to say some insulting things. It's going to be arguing and fighting, and people are going to love that, right? So that's why last night they just came to me. I got done work. My wife wasn't here. And I said, I'm going to make this video now. And I just want to kill it now.
Yeah.
And I
You're not
spoke from the
playing.
heart. Yeah, I spoke from the heart and I explained everything and said, it's done. I'm not doing any show. I just want it to be done. There's people getting ready for the Olympia and the Myster Olympia. We don't need this. It's not about us. Let's just kill it now. And that's how I wanted to leave it. I'm not a drama guy.
Yeah. Yeah. Clearly not. Clearly not. Well, I think that, you've had such an impressive journey. And I think, you really did, put the bow on it by being on the Olympia stage at age 49. I mean, you really showed, that this isn't just a young man's sport and that, with your versatility and your dedication, you can achieve these things. And I love that you pointed out that, you really focused on, I'm going to get the pro card. I got the pro card. I'm going to focus on being on the Olympia stage. I got on the Olympia stage. And I think that's the key thing whenever we, put out our dreams and our goals, you have to focus on it and you have to take action toward it. And that's what you did. You didn't deter thinking about other things. You were very much able to make it happen.
Yeah.
So
If you will it, it'll be done.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's, you know, a true testament to you. So awesome and kudos. Very, very good. Okay, so we're getting here toward the end, and we've talked about a number of things, but I definitely think you're a trailblazer and you have made your mark in the professional bodybuilding world because of your career. A lot of people cannot have that same, you know, outcome that you did. So any final thoughts on just, you know, being a bodybuilder and trailblazing and the aging and redefining age and so forth?
All I can say is, listen, bodybuilding has no age. And, I made a joke with my wife and I said, you know what, if I never displayed my age several years ago, I probably would still be riding high, and it's sad because it makes me think of a little bit of ageism, because it's true. If I never mentioned my age, there was a lot of pros back in the day that never, they lied about their age. They were older, but they always said they were younger. And I could see why they did that. But just I tell everybody, believe in themselves, have that dream, regardless if it's bodybuilding or anything in life. Stay driven, stay motivated, keep God first. And just never think that you're too old to do anything. It don't have to be bodybuilding. It could be anything. Just also make sure that health is first.
Mhm.
Health is first. And if you're not where you're supposed to be, your markers are not where you're supposed to be, don't push for glory. Don't push for money. I've never seen a U-Haul behind a hearse. So always remember that. No matter how much money you have or think you're going to make, life is more important. To all my fans and people out there, thank you. You don't understand. Like it takes an army, and I have so much support through my ups and my downs from my fans and my family and everything. And I thank everybody. Thank you for the opportunity to come on this channel and talk to you. When John spoke very highly of you, I say it's done because I didn't know who you were until I had to research, but he spoke highly of you. I said done. So I just want to thank you as well for the opportunity, and I just pray for everybody just to continue to have peace, love life, love your family, love everybody. We're in tough times now, and we just need more love than hate.
I love that message. That's great. And so, you know, speaking of John's channel, John Livy's got a great channel, Serious and Silliness Bodybuilding, and you're a regular on their Wednesday Muscle Talk. And
Yeah.
so definitely check him out there. Where else can people find you?
They can find me on my Instagram, Team Clahar. I also have a website, structurefitnessinc.com, for coaching and, personal training. I'm still going to try to definitely do my best to stay involved in the sport. Still try to put some content up, some little training content. I mean, I'm not getting any smaller. Somebody came up to me like, I thought you retired. I said, I graduated high school at 235 pounds. So, I'm not going to walk around at 250. I mean, it's not going to happen. So we're trying to keep our weight around 270, 275 and nothing more. And just try to enjoy life. So I'm going to still try to stay involved and still put content up, and just continue to preach the love. And that's all I can do. Just be myself and continue to be myself.
Awesome, awesome. Well, we can't wait to keep hearing from you, and we'll definitely be following you on Instagram and on the YouTube. Thanks, Phil. I appreciate you coming on my channel.
No problem, Lisa. God bless and your success with everything you do. Take care.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.